You have been devoting too much of yourself to the wrong pursuits. Your time, your vitality, your thoughts dispersed. Everything was taken, not by coercion, but by noise and distractions masquerading as communication. You've sensed it, that fatigue that results from doing too little of what truly matters rather than from doing too much. This is not a motivational video. It's not comfort, it's a mirror, a silent one. You won't be told to think positively or work harder. They'll tell you to stop bleeding into unworthy places, to quit wasting your time explaining yourself to uninterested people, to quit waiting for others to comprehend you when your silence speaks louder than words ever could. This is about gaining power to stop being controlled, not to exert control over others, not to be loud, but to be so precise they can't move you. This video was written with someone who has finished performing in mind, someone who is prepared to rebuild quietly. Stay if that describes you. See it through to the end. You won't be asked to clap for yourself. It will ask you to become unreachable, someone they can't get rid of. When you return, they won't recognize you. You are not here to draw attention to yourself. You're here to regain authority. You never learned how to safeguard your focus from them. No one told you that the loudest enemy in the world wouldn't knock on your door. Instead, it would appear subtly, disguising itself as routine, amusement, or a connection. The worst thing is that it doesn't use force to steal anything. It is waiting for you to give it to it. It gets to you with each scroll, meaningless response, and mindless phone check. You don't have to lose your concentration all at once. All you have to do is exchange a small amount of it each day until you lose the memory of what it was like to be totally present. You lose yourself in this way, not in disarray, in ease, addicted to being busy, but not accomplishing anything, in an attempt to stay ahead of those who aren't even observing you. Because your hands are moving, you believe you have control, but your mind isn't. Things that don't matter are pulling it in 100 different directions. They maintain your averageness in this way. People who are distracted don't build, they respond. They become adept at making noise and lose the ability to hear quiet. They mistake movement for advancement, and after doing everything correctly, they burn out, wondering why they feel empty. You must realize that your attention is a currency. Everyone wants to purchase it at a low cost. However, it is your responsibility to make it costly. Additional apps are not necessary. Optimizing your screen time is not necessary. You must keep in mind that you do not flee from silence. You go back to it. It's not a void. You regain your clarity there. No one ever tells you how powerful it is to just sit in a room and think without interruption. The actual decisions are made there. You remember what you've been ignoring there. Yes, it will initially be uncomfortable because your time wasn't just wasted due to distraction. Your senses were numbed. It feels too quiet now, too sharp, too authentic. However, you stick with it. You take a seat in it, and then something begins to take place. Your mind starts clearing itself. The mist clears. The ideas begin to align, and you see what you're supposed to do next for the first time in a long time. Permission is not required to do this. You can co-sign your piece without anyone else's help. You simply quit responding to noise. Through your screen, you no longer allow the outside world to affect you. You are no longer the product, the puppet, or the person who is always on call. You disappear for a while, but it's because you're building, not because you're lost. Silently, with a purpose, without making an effort to be noticed. Absence is not always a loss. A few absences are necessary for preparation. Some disappearances are the start of something too serious to share. That's how you come back different. They understand you weren't avoiding them because of this. You had just had enough of being owned by something that didn't deserve you. They'll claim that you've changed, that you're far away, that you're cold. However, they're actually saying that you've given up on self-explanation. You are no longer so accessible. You no longer tolerate noise. They are frightened by that because the majority of people only know how to handle the available version of you. The version that says yes far too frequently, that finds humor in jokes that you don't, that listens to issues that you never had to deal with. They take offense when you begin to retreat. It's not about them though. It has to do with your decision to prioritize peace over performance. Additionally, you lose people when you choose peace. That's included in the cost. However, you become more clear-headed. You regain yourself. You begin to see everything when you stop responding to everything. You begin to notice the little things that used to go unnoticed, like the genuine meaning behind someone's tone, the energy behind their words, and the tricks they play when they think you're not looking. You can't unsee it once you've seen it. You cannot resume playing along. You have no desire to do so. Detachment isn't cold because of this. It's clever, quiet power. It's being aware that you can hear everything and remain silent, that even though you're in the room, you won't be affected by what's happening there, since not all battles are yours. An RSVP is not required for every invitation to chaos. Furthermore, you are not required in every conflict. Staying motionless and allowing them to show themselves is sometimes the best course of action. You will be put to the test. Your silence will be questioned by others to see if they can still get through to you. They will attempt to provoke you. They'll ask questions pretending to be concerned, insults pretending to be jokes, and guilt pretending to be concern. Don't wince, don't elaborate, don't respond, because they win the instant you react. They are aware that the buttons are still functional. They still own you if they are able to move you. However, something changes when you stop responding. They become anxious, because silence is confusing. The weight of silence is heavy. Additionally, people are not accustomed to confronting themselves in the presence of others. Your composure turns into a mirror. Additionally, people feel uneasy around mirrors. As a result, you learn to tolerate the discomfort, to not absorb any of it, and instead allow others to project, to experience your emotions without letting them show, to maintain control, because you've mastered it, not because you're repressing your feelings. That's what true control looks like. It's not numbness. It involves deciding how and when to reply, as well as occasionally deciding not to reply at all. That isn't a sign of weakness. Most people never achieve that power because they are addicted to being recognized, correct, and understood. You're done with all of that though. Being understood is not why you are here. Being untouchable is why you are here. They will also begin to respect what they once attempted to control once they are unable to understand you. Because they speak up, most people believe they are strong, since they return the clap, since they are able to prevail in debates. However, true strength is more subdued than that. It's the man who listens to everything but doesn't speak. It's the person who takes offense and doesn't back down. He's already at peace with himself, not because he's scared. To demonstrate your correctness, you don't need to respond. You are not required to respond to questions designed to trick you. Just because your name was called doesn't mean you have to attend every fight. Let them speak. Give them a chance to guess. Allow them to construct their tales while you remain silent, because they expose themselves more the more they talk. You are not absent if you remain silent. It's command. Your energy comes back once you stop protecting yourself. You're not exhausted by pointless conversations. You're not mentally reliving situations and questioning what you ought to have said. You're not attempting to change how others perceive you. You are simply living, and you turn into a threat when you live your life without attempting to prove anything. Because the majority of people continue to struggle for approval. They still deserve praise. They still require understanding. You don't, and they're not sure how to deal with that calm, that distance. They refer to it as arrogance, chilly, pride. Permit them. It is not your responsibility to interpret them. Furthermore, you are not accountable for their misunderstanding. You are not here to conform to their ideal of who you ought to be. You're here to be solid, silently, totally. You learn to watch more than you talk as a result. You research behavior. You research tone. You research timing. To know, not to control. While others perform, you gather data. And that makes you dangerous in a noisy world. Because what you show doesn't give you power. It originates from what you know, but decide not to express. More often, the person who listens the longest wins. The person in charge is the one who allows the silence to continue, because people fill in the blanks when there is silence. Additionally, you have control over the room when you can manage the silence. You don't use words to control others. By controlling your energy, you take control of space. When they stare, you don't tremble. You take your time filling the void. It does the work for you. The change will be apparent to you. When you're around, people talk less. They are more selective about what they say. They have different ways of joking. They don't exert as much pressure, not due to your loudness. However, Your presence speaks for you when your words cannot. You should aim for that level, where everything about you is felt and nothing about you is for show. And you simply smile when someone asks, "Why are you so quiet?" At last. Because there's no need to explain what you're creating. All it takes is time. They anticipated commotion. You made them quiet. They also don't know how to combat something they can't hear anymore. The truth is not what most people want. They seek solace. They desire sound. They want something loud enough to divert their attention from their innermost thoughts. Silence is so uncommon because it is uncomfortable. It forces you to examine yourself. No applause, no likes, no filters. Only you. The real work then starts. When you are able to sit quietly and refrain from running. When you are able to listen to your own thoughts and stop deceiving yourself. You realize then that you are no longer like them. You're not giving a performance. You're not pursuing. You're not acting. All you're doing is facing the important things and moving forward without turning around. The silent man moves in a different way. He doesn't inquire about his readiness. He makes the decision. He doesn't look to see who is observing. He takes action. He doesn't worry about their opinions. He is already aware that it is irrelevant, because you start creating things that no one can take away from you once you stop needing eyes on you. Your routines become more precise. You make decisions more quickly. You save time. You quit arguing with those who wish to misinterpret you. You quit trying to explain your development to those who are determined to remain small. At that point, you begin to get farther away. A calm, steady, and genuine separation from everything that previously held you back. Sharing your progress will be tempting, to let them know how difficult things have been, to demonstrate that you are not sluggish, aloof, or conceited. Don't. That's your former self attempting to resurface. Give it a chance to die. Applause is not necessary for growth. It simply occurs, gradually, in silence, until one day you enter the same space and everything feels different. Not because they changed, but because you did. That's the victory. When your silence serves as your shield and your presence speaks for itself. You're not here to win people over. Your purpose is to be indisputable by being solid, not by being noisy. You should watch another part of the video if this one resonates with something you've been experiencing. Watch Machiavelli's Silent Revenge, how to make them feel guilty for hurting you. It explains how detachment, control, and silence make your absence memorable, not dramatically, but in a cool, collected manner that makes the other person question what they truly lost. Retaliation is not the point. It's about taking back control without ever speaking up. If you're prepared to make your silence more powerful than their justifications, watch that next, because you become untouchable once you learn to keep your mouth shut and hold on to your progress. They don't even know where you're going, so they can't slow you down. Since you are not in their path, they are unable to block you. You are unstoppable because you are truly building alone. You didn't go into hiding. To get it right, you vanished. And it won't be for attention when you get back. It will be because you're prepared to move in a manner from which they will never fully recover. People don't trust their own voices, so they seek approval. They want someone to affirm that they are worthy, intelligent, and good enough. However, you are easier to control the more you need to be seen, because you are now making decisions based on attention rather than the truth. You're changing how you behave in order to prevent rejection. To appease the masses, you are filtering your thoughts. You won't even be living your life before you realize it. You're acting for those who are indifferent, for those who vanish as soon as you stop providing them with entertainment. Power isn't that. Slavery with likes is that. The need to be understood must be killed. The part of you that required authorization to proceed must be buried. You'll always stay small with that version. You'll always be drawn back into the commotion by that version. When they don't receive the validation they need, people who depend on it collapse. Their day is ruined by a single negative remark. They spiral when one person pulls away. That isn't a sign of strength. Programming is what that is. You must develop into the kind of man who experiences everything but does nothing in response. You know better, not because you don't care. You are aware that there is no question about your value. You are aware that 1,000 explanations are not as valuable as your silence. At that point, things start to change. Your detachment isn't frigid. It serves as defense. It's organized. What gets your energy and what doesn't is up to you. You don't share everything. You don't describe every move. You don't request comprehension. You are alive, and without a performance, the people who are supposed to be with you will sense it. All the others? Let them speak. Let them make assumptions. Allow them to write your story incorrectly. You don't correct them. You simply continue writing it silently. They are frightened by that. Not your rage, not your voice. You're composed. Keep your distance. Your refusal to take part in their drama. You won't pursue them, so they'll call you cold. Because you refuse to fold, they will accuse you of being arrogant. You're not the version of you I could control anymore. However, is what they're actually saying. They're correct too. You owe no one your openness. You don't have to share your ideas, plans, or advancements with everyone. Certain things are meant to remain in your life, silently, with strength, until they're finished. Too much time has already been wasted trying to be understood by unlistening people. People who only came when it was convenient for them have already received far too much from you. That's done now. A new season has begun, one in which silence is the answer, clarity is the rule, and peace is the aim. You no longer move to attract attention. You know exactly who you are, which is why you move, and you refuse to respond when they eventually ask, "What happened to you?" Because when you were ready to speak, they didn't want to hear the truth. Your silence now speaks louder than anything you have ever said. Motivation has nothing to do with discipline. The important thing is to do it anyhow, regardless of your feelings, regardless of what is going on around you, regardless of who is observing. Waiting to feel ready is the main reason why most people fail. They believe that energy is the key to discipline or motivation. It isn't. It comes down to choice. It all comes down to establishing a standard and not letting it be broken. It's about showing up when no one else is looking, about putting in the effort when it's difficult, tedious, and lonely. That is the difference between the elite and the average. The typical man waits to be shoved. The well-behaved man doesn't require encouragement. He responds to orders, his own. Eliminating options helps you develop discipline. Saying, "This is who I am," replaces queries like, "Do I feel like it today?" You don't consider what's simple. You consider what is necessary. You don't flee from pain. You approach it as though it were a part of the plan. Since it is, consistency is the only thing preventing you from living the life you desire. That's all. No luck, not skill. Simply carrying out the work when it's not enjoyable. And after a sufficient amount of time, something changes. Your system takes over. You don't need to exert yourself. You don't need to exert yourself. You simply do it. It turns into an automatic process. You realize you're unique at that point. You're already taking action. While most people are still fighting with themselves in the morning, you're creating something while they're making excuses. You're learning the routine while they're chasing comfort. Freedom comes from discipline, the real kind, where emotion, distraction, or laziness don't control you. Not the fake kind, where you do whatever you want. The course of your day is up to you. How you spend your time is up to you. You create a system that is so tightly controlled that chaos cannot exist. Additionally, you remain unfazed by the pressures of life. Because you've already had to deal with pressure in private. They are unable to recognize that type of power until it is too late. They consider you fortunate. They believe you have a gift. However, they are blind to the early mornings, the parties you missed, and the silent sacrifices you made. You were built on that. Not skill, not a sound, form, repetition, unwavering concentration. It wasn't innate in you. You constructed it. It is yours for that reason. You can't lose it. They will never make it through the process, no matter how hard they try to replicate the result. Due to the weight of the process, it is silent, it's solitary, and for that reason, the majority of people fail. Instead of the routine, they want the reward. Not you though. Your decision has already been made. You no longer adhere to motivation. You adhere to a code, and you are untouchable because of that code. You remain steady while the world cracks under strain. Since you weren't trained to attract attention, control is what you trained for. Nothing else matters now that you have it. Being emotionally detached does not imply that you are indifferent. It indicates that you take good care of others. It implies that your peace is no longer in jeopardy. You don't become enmeshed in every drama, insult, or mood swing that comes your way. You have control over what leaves you, but you feel everything because they are unable to touch you when they are unable to trigger you. The majority of people don't comprehend that. They believe that power is noisy, that it responds, defends, and clarifies. However, true power still exists. Without a reason, it doesn't move. People don't know how to get in touch with you when you're that motionless. Your advantage starts there. They attempt to irritate you. They say anything to test your character, whether it's the right or wrong thing. However, you don't. You simply watch. The games are visible to you. Their voice is manipulative and you can hear it. You can read their silence just as well as what they say. But you don't answer, because your emotions have been conditioned. You now understand the distinction between response and reaction. Impulse is one, power is the other. The winner is the man who can stay calm in the face of chaos. Not the most persuasive argumentator, not the loudest yeller. However, the person who doesn't wince. What you display isn't your strength, it's in your possession. You bear storms without allowing them to overflow. You endure betrayal without becoming a different person. You maintain your dignity even if you lose people. It's not common. When things don't go their way, most people go crazy. Not you though. You've completed the task. You've had enough time to reflect and figure out what's important. Not every message is answered by you. You don't respond to every glance. When someone leaves, you don't pursue them, because they are unable to touch what you have created within yourself, and they begin to fear you after realizing they can't move you. Drama doesn't interest you. You're not seeking retribution. You're not attempting to instruct anyone. You've forgotten all of that because it is a waste of energy to prove your value. You've learned to be misinterpreted by others, to give them the impression that you are cold, heartless, and aloof. It's okay. In rooms you don't respect, you don't have to clear your name. Your outcomes will speak for themselves. It will be your presence that speaks. Your discipline will do the talking. Without uttering a single word, you will become the solution to every lie. And the answer will be straightforward. When people ask how you maintained your composure when everything was trying to shatter you, for things that didn't deserve your injuries, you stopped bleeding. You ceased justifying your silence to those who never paid attention. You began to guard your mind as though it were your house. And now that you've left the areas where you were constantly at war, they don't know where to look for you. You're not chilly. You are concentrated. You're not numb. You're accurate. The world will also realize they have no control over you once they see that they cannot emotionally manipulate you. Loneliness is not the same as solitude. It's a training session. You go there to recollect your identity away from the cacophony. Without the anticipation, without the phony acclaim and the flimsy affection, you are what remains after all of that is removed. Uncooked, unfiltered, sincere. And that version of themselves is too much for most people to handle. They avoid silence because of this. They use every available moment to divert attention because of this. They don't want to sit in silence and confront the truth. You will discover something uncommon though, if you can sit in it and remain motionless. When the noise in your head becomes too loud, self-control, to feel seen, you won't need other people. You'll recognize yourself. You'll quit trying to be everywhere once you've done that. You won't require permission anymore. You'll simply construct. What the world tries to hide is exposed by solitude. You disregarded the weakness, the behaviors you defended, the feelings you fled. When no one else is around, it all becomes apparent. That's where things start to get serious. You have to stop acting that way. You're not fleeing from anyone. You're sprinting with accuracy, in order, to a steady internal source. Because nobody can take it away from you once you found it. When people go, you don't break. When they stop calling, you don't pursue them. When no one checks in, you don't break down. You'll know you're strong at that point. Not because you were never in need of anyone, however, because you can no longer count on them to straighten up. In the midst of the same noise that broke them, most men attempt to mend. They remain in the crowd. They continue to post. They continue to act fake. However, healing doesn't take place there. Growth does not occur in the spotlight. It takes place in the dark. Nobody sees in the mornings. Nobody applauds the routines. In the choices that aren't acknowledged, the change starts there. You get nimble, concentrated, and your energy gets pure. No more justifications, no more pursuing, no more pleading for attention. You are not here to persuade, you are here to build. And it's okay if they don't notice it. Let them speak, give them a chance to guess, allow them to chuckle. You don't respond, you simply continue to work. Because clarity is the choice of the man who chooses solitude, and power comes from clarity. Trends don't divert you. You are not dragged along by rumors. Rumors don't make you cringe. Your circle shrinks. Your days become more peaceful. But you make bigger moves. Your mental acuity increases. Reaction is no longer your way of life. You have a purpose in life. Additionally, every action you take is planned. Solemnity does that. It teaches you to perform without a large audience. It allows you to see. It creates the kind of presence that evokes feelings in others without you having to express them. They'll be curious about your whereabouts. They will inquire as to what transpired. However, they won't hear back. You didn't disappear. You went inward. You didn't vanish. You changed. You didn't run. You practiced. Your choice of silence will now be the loudest response they have ever heard. When you change, you don't have to warn anyone. You don't have to make your progress public. You don't need to give an explanation for your withdrawal, silence, or change. In actuality, most people didn't take notice of you until you ceased performing. Until it vanished, they didn't appreciate your presence, and it will be too late by the time they finally recognize who you have become. Because evolution doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't look for praise. It simply occurs, silently, totally. You were altering your system while they were looking for clues. You were planning while they were posting. You were honing the aspects of yourself that they could never comprehend while they chased noise. You haven't become louder. You're colder, sharper. Still, you've witnessed the consequences of having too much affection for the wrong people. Being accessible to everyone and unrespected by anyone is a price you've paid. That you, always trying to be seen, always seeking peace, always explaining, is no longer there. You buried him in the unobserved routines. Nobody applauded the choices. You woke up in the mornings lacking motivation. That's where the new you originated. The person who doesn't inquire, the person who remains silent, the person who doesn't wait to be rescued. You were able to save yourself. You no longer move to attract attention. The mission requires you to move. People will put you to the test. The same tricks will be used when they return. The same tone. Identical games. Avoid falling for it. Don't justify your silence. To make them feel at ease, don't violate your code. Allow them to experience the loss. Give them space to sit. Allow them to speak to the no longer existing version of you. When they realize they can't get to you, not because you're hiding, but because you've become too far away, that's the true form of retaliation. You don't use anger to discipline them. You punish them by not being there with your accomplishment, because you are no longer impacted by what they say. Their approval is no longer important. You are no longer at peace with them. Nobody is superior to you. However, you are no longer who you once were. Old cycles are not entertained by you. For those who have never shown respect for your time, you don't keep seats warm. You don't become smaller to blend in. You don't give people who have never walked with you an explanation of your journey. That's the change. When your progress speaks for itself and you don't need to demonstrate it anymore. Not with sound, not in a dramatic way. However, with presence, under control, with unexpected outcomes. Additionally, you remain silent when they inquire about the change, because true transformation is not self-explanatory. It comes. It is unwavering. It communicates without using words. You are now there. You don't turn around. Old calls are not answered by you. Doors that you have already passed through cannot be unlocked. Being understood is not why you are here. Respect is why you are here. Silence will suffice when respect is lacking. You arrived here on purpose. You got here with every step, silent decision, late night, and early morning. You weren't handed this. You deserved it. With your self-control, with your distance. When no one was applauding, you refused to give up. Silence built this version of you. It was formed in discomfort. You were creating systems while they waited for inspiration. You were learning structure while they were trying to get attention. Your life now functions on code rather than emotion. No hype is necessary. A crowd is not necessary. You must concentrate. You have it too. You no longer request space. You accept it. Peace is not something you wait for. You keep it safe. You don't react to rudeness. You take yourself away. That is the appearance of power. It isn't noisy. It isn't responsive. It is steady. Be calm, sharp, until it's too late. Most people are unaware that they are being influenced by their emotions. Not you though. You anticipate it. You feel it rise, but you keep your mouth shut. Your response has been conditioned to support your goal. It's not common. That's what sets you apart, because control involves restraint as much as action. It all comes down to knowing when to stop talking, moving, and reacting. People don't know how to get in touch with you after they see that. The highest level is that when they are unable to read you, predict you, or shake you. You're not hiding. You're working with accuracy. Every action is deliberate. Every hour is tracked. Your energy is cleaner, but your circle is smaller. What drains you is no longer something you entertain. You've given up trying to justify your silence. You no longer make sure they comprehend, because your process no longer includes their understanding. You're creating something greater than what they think. More subdued than their acclaim is what you're after. You're not here to win debates. Your goal is to triumph in silence. And each day, that silence grows louder. It took time for you to change. Piece by piece you changed, boundary by boundary, one choice after another. And now, all they find when they search for the former you is distance, a non-manipulable version of you, unable to divert, unable to get there. Growth does just that. It makes room, not because you despise them, not because you harbor resentment, but due to your concentration. You don't have time for cycles, no tolerance for games. Don't waste energy on things that don't help you achieve your goals. You're not chilly, you're dedicated. And to those who only comprehend noise, commitment appears as silence. The hours you spend by yourself won't be visible to them. The days when you doubted everything, you kept showing up with nothing left on those nights. However, they will witness the outcomes. The change will be felt by them. They'll also know that you changed, not just survived. Not in retaliation, not with sound, but with measured, serene elevation. You're not finished yet. You have only just started. The man you were before, you are the man you are today because of him. Additionally, this version of you doesn't recoil, fold, or turn around. Don't allow it to fade if this resonated with you. Watch it again. Think about it, then take action. Quit making noise. Be mindful of your time. Where you used to explain, remain silent. Where you waited, begin to build. To level up, you don't need anyone's approval. All you need is consistency. Make your discipline more noticeable than your uncertainty. Make your peace more resilient than their demands. Subscribe right away if you're serious about maintaining control. This serves as a reminder of who you are becoming, not just content. Stay put. For those who live by code and move in silence, there is more to come.